There's a hall called AG Hall in the high school I went to, and I would just sit alone in there every single day. I basically ran away from home when I was 16. Eventually, I bought a one-way ticket to Arizona, and I told my mom, I was like, oh, I'll be back in like 3 or 4 days. And then they didn't see me.
What do you feel was the lowest point?
The stuff I've gone through over the past 15, 18 months, being completely lonely, working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for months without talking to anybody.
What was the most retarded sales call you've ever had?
I've
How to handle fear?
Yeah.
What's up, guys? I'm Paul Vu, and today I'm here with Andres Contreras. Welcome, bro.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate you.
Now, for the 10 viewers, if anyone is brand new, how old are you and what do you do?
Yeah, I'm 17. A little bit of my story. I basically ran away from home when I was 16 and now I'm 17. And in the past year and a half, I went from being kind of like a normal high school 16-year-old student to now running a consulting business with my partner, Yash, managing a company doing $3.5 million a month and in cash collected, training the team, managing it, etc. And making about like 65 grand a month profit.
Damn, there you go, bro. I can't just skip over that. What even made you want to run away from home, dude? Tell us about that.
I think so. I was already a little bit in the business space, but I hadn't made like the full commitment to myself. I think naturally from childhood, and a lot of people, you don't hear this very often, I had a very good childhood, or good by social norms. Like I had good parents, loving parents, played sports, like middle class family, etc. And so I started realizing it was like, if I stayed in that environment of just comfort and having whatever I wanted, I would never progress and mature and develop and become independent myself. And so that's what kind of caused me to eventually, I bought a one-way ticket to Arizona and I told my mom, I was like, oh, I'll be back in like 3 or 4 days. And then they didn't see me for like 3 months after that.
What did your parents think about that? Like their 16-year-old boy freaking just disappearing.
I wasn't really concerned about what they thought about it. Like I assumed it wasn't great, but in my first week, I got a dog. I got a lease, like a 12-month lease. So it was kind of like, what are you going to make me come home? Then the dog dies, starvation. Like it's not a really choice. So like,
were they calling you like, yo, Andres, where are you?
Yeah, they were like texting me and calling me. I settled them down a little bit though, because I would go to dinner with friends and stuff and I would send them like pictures. It was my birthday and I sent them a video of everybody like singing me happy birthday, like on purpose to make them feel more comfortable. Like, oh, he actually has a life. Like he's doing good, blah, blah, blah. And honestly, they took it a lot better than I guess most people would expect a parent to take it when their kid runs away from home. And so I think I engineered it all in my brain on purpose. So like how I was going to do this entire thing, like what pictures I was going to send them and what I was going to do. And like going to a run club and taking pictures there. Like I engineered everything step by step to like make them more comfortable with it.
That's smart, bro. So they wouldn't have to worry. So let me ask you, like exactly. With your parents, like with all of this, were they always supportive of you like going down the entrepreneurial pathway?
No. They're both university professors.
Oh, shit.
So every step of my entire journey was like forcing it through. At the beginning, when I first started my initial business, I needed a payment processor. They did not want to help me with that. I had to convince them for like weeks to help me set up a payment processor because I was a minor, obviously. Me starting to make money, me switching from, so I researched like the laws in Texas to find loopholes in it. As a 16-year-old kid, you can't drop out of high school. You have to graduate. So I started researching like what are different states where you can drop out. And the one that I found out about was Arizona. And so the plan I made is when I was in Texas, I convinced them to let me join an online school, which was nationwide, because then I didn't have to be in Texas to attend. And so I joined the online school. That's when I decided to go to Arizona and I moved there. And then once I was in Arizona, I declared my residency in Arizona. And then once I declared my residency in Arizona, I didn't do any of the schoolwork for like a couple of weeks, couple of months. And I went to my parents and I had to convince them again to let me drop out of online school. And then that's when I officially dropped out.
There you go. Okay. So like one thing I'm curious about now, because like obviously right now you're a really good speaker, you're confident, you're making a lot of money. I want to know who was Andres before the success? Like back in high school, middle school. Because like back then for me,
that's an interesting question. Yeah.
Yeah. I was the kind of kid that would be really quiet, studying all that stuff. So I'm curious about you, man.
So it was interesting because, okay, naturally, and this will sound egotistical, it's not. I have a very high IQ, like just from like tests and stuff. So I always look for patterns in things because that's what IQ is by definition. It's finding different patterns and different conversations and sections. And so I always try to look for patterns. And what I realized because of that, and a lot of people think high IQ people are usually worse socially, is actually the reverse. If you look at like studies across the internet, et cetera, people with higher IQ tend to be better socially, right? From like studies performed. And so I always looked for like, whenever I was like in a social setting, what I realized is I had the smarts, I had the intelligence of the kids that would just sit alone, not talk to anybody, and just like figure out their tests and everything. I had their intelligence, but I also had the social capability of the other people who were just
Mm.
going to parties or whatever, or at least I tried to have it because it was interesting to me. It was a pattern. It was like a new thing I could break, a new like thing to win at, obsess over in a sense, because I was always trying to win. I was always very, very competitive. And so being around those people, I got into the same things, like the drinking, drugs, going to parties, etc., just because I was around them. And the people you're around is the person you become. And so I do all those things, but I always felt like I didn't fit in. Like there's this massive group, they all together, they all do the same shit. I didn't feel like I fit in. And
Why
I
not?
think naturally in psychology, if you feel like you don't fit into a group, you assume you're inferior, even if in reality you're superior. You assume the inferiority position. And so me being in that state where I'm very competitive, I want to win, I want to figure things out, but I feel inferior to everybody that I'm around. It was kind of like I needed to find a way to feel superior, to be better at. And so at the beginning, that became sports for me, right?
Mm.
And it was my new obsession. How can I become as good as possible? For me, it was soccer. And eventually I actually made it to the semi-pro level, right?
Fuck.
And so from there, I ended up getting injured, blah, blah, blah. And that's how I got out of soccer and like went onto my journey in business and sales and entrepreneurship and all that jazz.
What sparked that though? Like, was there a specific moment that even sparked you to get into the world of entrepreneurship, all of that stuff? Because
I
it's
think it
not
was
normal.
desperation. Because after I got injured, I was in this place where it's like, I don't want to be with all these old people that do all this shit that I know.
I guess like when you left like school, abandoned your friend group, all of that stuff, the people that you used to know, like what did they think about all that?
This is a funny question. And they're probably watching this right now. But I just started sitting alone at school. Like this is while I was still at school. I would sit alone. There's a hall called AG Hall in the high school I went to. And I would just sit alone in there every single day, just working, researching, typing, etc., taking meetings, whatever it was. And they would always like go up to me and be like, oh, come back to the table, like trying to pull you back in. I think part of that is people feel value in absence. So if you're used to being around this person who's always supporting you, who's always being nice, and then they all of a sudden leave, it's like a void. It's kind of like if you're in a relationship and there's a really toxic girlfriend and you're the supportive boyfriend, always like telling her, oh, you're so great, whatever. And then all of a sudden you pull back, she's going to run at you because she wants you. It's the same thing because she misses that void, but they don't realize that until it's gone. And so as soon as I left, then they started going back like, oh, like come to the table, blah, blah, blah. And obviously I didn't because I wasn't a dumbass. And so from there, that's kind of their initial thoughts. Now, honestly, there's a couple of people who are actually supportive and who actually want the best for me. The majority, it's not. I actually went to my old high school a couple of days ago and I spoke with my old school counselor there because she was like, great. She was very, very supportive. She helped me with everything. And she was telling me, she was like, oh, a lot of the kids at school, like in class and stuff, they're always talking about you and like watching your videos and stuff. And so that's behind my back. But then to my face in group chats and stuff, which I like, frankly, I'll reply if I want entertainment, but like I just really couldn't give less of a shit. Then it's always like hate or like, oh, he's doing this, he's doing that, whatever. But again, it doesn't bother me. But then there's the occasional 2 or 3 people who are like very, very supportive. One of my old best friends is still one of my best friends to this day. His name's Alberta. And so
Shout out Alberto, bro.
yeah, shout out Alberta. So it's a bit of a mixed reaction. But that's kind of how they responded to it. I think when somebody sees somebody else doing something better than them and they know that person is a superior human, not in their soul, because everybody's equal soul wise, but in terms of what they do in their life, not everybody's equal. Everybody knows that fundamentally. And so whenever somebody sees something like that and they realize, shit, I could have done the exact same thing, but I chose not to. I've been going to parties the past year. He's been working the past year. Now he's going all these penthouses and all this nice shit and he's able to help more people, support his family, etc. It's kind of like, well, damn, maybe I made the wrong choice. And then naturally, like some level of jealousy is going to come about. I would feel jealous. If I was in that position and I saw somebody else become successful and do all this shit and I was still in the same position, I would be jealous. Can't blame them.
Yeah, because they compare themselves to you. They see you like, oh shit, he's in my exact position. Year down the line, he's doing all.
And that's a great point. I think people think of comparing to other people as a bad thing. And I think it's different for different people based on kind of how you grew up and your beliefs. I think comparing yourself to other people is a great thing. Because if you don't compare yourself to other people, what measure of success do you have?
Don't.
If people never compared to themselves in past history or whatever, how would they know that making 10 grand a month isn't a decent thing? How would they know getting to 100 grand a month isn't a good achievement? If somebody gets to 500K a month, they wouldn't celebrate it because they don't know that it's a good thing or a bad thing. But they know it's a good thing because they compare themselves to other people who have done it before, and it's a very, very rare thing. So I think people who say like, oh, comparing yourself to other people is a bad thing, I think that's stupid. I think you should compare yourself to other people because that gives you the drive, the motivation. If you're in a group of your boys, like I live with my business partner, Yash, if you're in a group with your boys and they're always working out and they're always going to these dinners and networking with other people and having great relationships and great friendships, naturally, you're going to be like, well, shit, I have to do the same thing. And that makes you a better person. Because if you're not working out and they are, you feel like a piece of shit. So I think the comparison is a great thing. And I think people who say it's not either already achieved a level of success by comparing themselves to other people that now put them in a position where they can say, I don't care, but they never would have achieved that success if they didn't compare.
Right.
That's what I believe.
And aside from just comparison, I guess like what else do you believe that you feel like 99% of people would not agree with?
Oh, I'm going to make you go viral. I think men should not care about their feelings. That is one massive belief I have.
Why do you feel that way?
I think a man's role is to be productive, not happy. I think naturally as a man, like, I think progress equals happiness. And so if you're progressing, you will feel happy, but not pleasure happy. You will feel true happiness, fulfillment. But the issue I think so many people fall into is they chase what they feel. I think in society as a whole, if you look at the pattern over the past 100, 200, 300 years, it went from everybody being like traditional and being happy and being like in this society to now people making decisions based on what they feel in the moment, disregarding morals, ethics, or beliefs. If you look at, and I don't want to talk about this topic too much, but even if you think about like a concept like OnlyFans, for example, why does somebody decide to go on OnlyFans? Fundamentally, like a woman, for example. It's because they're literally valuing money, this potential role of success over their ethics and morals based on what they feel. A guy going to parties or drinking or doing drugs, it's because they're chasing the feeling. They're chasing the high, the social pressure around them. They chase that. It's the feeling. But if you focus on being productive as a human being, I can very confidently say I'm a lot more happy than those kids that I used to hang out with in high school that go to parties every weekend and they feel the high for an hour and the next day they're sitting in the classroom bored out of their fucking minds. I can say I'm much more happy than them, most likely.
And do you believe that way of thinking, do you feel like that applies to both genders or just men?
Only one. I don't think women should necessarily chase productivity. And the reason why is I think humans, a man and a woman, are made differently. And that's not a crazy thing to say. That's just the truth. We are literally physically made differently. We have different hormones and everything else. I don't think any woman, the stuff I've gone through over the past 15, 18 months, for example, being completely lonely months on end, working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for months without talking to anybody, literally texting those old people being like, hey guys, I'm not going to be able to speak for 6 months. I'll see you then. I think a woman shouldn't have to go through that. And I think they would lose their mind if they did. Because women naturally, and everybody agrees with this is a well-known fact, are a lot more emotional than a man. So I think if a woman has to go through that period of being that lonely for that period of time, I don't think they can handle it. And I don't think they should be able to handle it. Because women are naturally made to be to have a much higher EQ, a lot more emotionally intelligent. Because when you raise a kid, you have to be able to nurture them. You have to be able to be more emotionally intelligent. Versus a man doesn't have to do that. The man traditionally goes to war. The man goes to work. Whether it's a factory, the mines, whatever it is, he's doing the hard physical shit, whatever it takes for the family. The woman has to grow a kid, and neither role is more important. Neither role is better. It's just different. I couldn't raise the kid that I'll have eventually the same way that my future wife will. I just couldn't. So neither side is better or worse, but it's just different roles. I don't think a woman should have to go through that period that I've had to go through, and every successful, very successful man will eventually have to go through at some point. I don't think they should.
Yeah. And one thing that you mentioned earlier is like, you're working very, very hard, like not being able to go to the social events, being very lonely. I guess I know feelings is not like your main measurement that you look at, but going through all of that, like, how did that make you feel?
Like shit. Straight up. People will be like, oh, I did this and it felt fine. I was happy. Like, no, it didn't feel good. But I think, and this is something I've learned from a lot of different principles and stuff, I don't put a lot of importance or weight at all on what I feel. I have a lot of feelings. Me naturally, I'm actually a very emotional human being. I am. And a lot of people will say this if they personally know me. Like, I'm a very emotional person.
Me too.
But I just don't put a lot of weight on what I feel. And I used to. And that's why I think I would go to parties or drink or do things I knew were fundamentally not good for me. I would do them because I put the weight on what I felt. But the difference now is that I still feel all those emotions, and I can feel sad, I can feel tired, I can feel whatever, but it doesn't matter how I feel. I just don't put a lot
do
of
what
weight
you
on
need
it.
to do.
Yeah, I just do it. Like, what has to be done, regardless of if I wake up tired or demotivated or whatever it is. I think another thing that helps, and this is something a lot of people miss, especially men in society, is I think fundamentally, if you're doing it for you, I think that can only get you so far. Because if you do it for you and for the success, the materialistic things you'll have, whatever it is, like when you wake up in the morning, if you feel tired or you don't feel like doing something, you're not going to do it because you're doing it for you. But if you're doing it for somebody else, for your family, for a future girlfriend, for a relationship you want to have, whatever, if you're doing it for somebody else, when you wake up, if you feel tired, if you feel sad, it doesn't matter because it's not about you. You're not doing it for yourself. So it doesn't have any emphasis. So I think if you have some external factor of like a reason why you're doing what you're doing, I think you'll be a lot more powerful. Number one, you'll achieve a lot more and you'll be able to help a lot more people, as well as just not really weighting your feelings as highly as productivity.
I would agree, man. Like a lot of the most successful people I know, they're driven by like retiring their parents, for example, providing for their family. Now for you, like what is even that drive that's driving you to do this in the first place?
Right now, it's the mission of making sales and business education available to the youth for free. And that's a real mission for me. I don't sell any coaching. I don't sell a course, none of it. I'm actually launching a group in like a week and a half, which is going to be a free course breaking down everything A to Z. Again, me and my business partner, Yash, we ran all the sales operations, training the team, managing the team, recruiting the sales team for the biggest B2C sales training company in the world, doing $3.5 million a month. We're going to be giving all that stuff away completely for free. We're going to be doing coaching completely for free, like everything, because I'm actually driven by that mission.
Where does that even come from though? Because like most people, I'm sure you know, like there's a lot of gurus out there. Buy this, buy that. Like where does that come from?
That's a great question. I think, see, this is another very interesting topic because I don't know if it comes from wanting to help other people or the feeling I get doing it. If you make a donation, like, okay, for example, I had a friend, his name's Alberto, the guy that I was talking about earlier. He had a, a birthday dinner. It was that yesterday? No, that was 2 days ago. 2 days ago. My mind is like a little bit messed up. It was 2 days ago. And I paid for the thing and I set it up, etc. He doesn't know that. He thinks I spoke to the owner of the location and got it for free, which I don't know in what world that could happen. But I paid for it, whatever. He has no clue. None of them do. And I did it because if I spend a couple $100s on that, versus if I spent a couple $100s on myself, buying a new light or whatever it is, which one feels better? For you, if you spend a couple $100s on a friend, helping him out, doing something nice, or you spend a couple $100s on yourself, which one feels better?
Feels way better to help someone else.
Exactly. But then are you doing it because of that person or are you doing it because of how good it feels when you do it?
That's a very philosophical question. I mean, it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah, so, I think it could be a bit of both. But
yeah.
that's always an interesting question of like, which one is it going to be? But I think to some degree, like me making 65 grand a month and I'm 17 profit, right? And I can, if anybody doubts me, DM me on Instagram and I'll literally show you. I'll hop on a call with you if you're that much of a disbeliever. But like, okay, if I got to 100 grand a month profit, like what really does that unlock for me that I can't have now? If I got to 200, what does that unlock for me that I can't have now? Until you get to like 500 grand a month, where you can get private jets and like yachts and stuff, like there's really like no massive difference. And I'm not like extremely interested in getting a private jet or a yacht. Like that doesn't really have any big difference for me, I guess you could say. So I think now if I was only driven by myself and what I want, I don't think I would work hard at all. I don't think I would have a work ethic. I don't think I would be driven or motivated. I don't think I would have the self-discipline. So I think fundamentally, like that's another good question. Like, me having that mission, am I doing it because I want to help all these people or am I doing it because I know I wouldn't have any drive and work ethic if I wasn't doing it for them? I don't know. It's a bit in the middle, I think.
Yeah, it's a question you got to ask yourself.
That's that question. But the other aspect is like the other reason why you could say I do it is because me and my journey when I was 16, I spent $55,000, $60,000 on coaching, consulting, mentoring. And I realized like when I see all those old kids that I was talking about earlier that aren't happy, maybe they're jealous, whatever you want to call them, that aren't happy. And even if you think about high school, and you can see this 100%, if you think back to your high school days, middle school days, there's so many people who they are visibly unhappy. They walk around with their shoulders like slunched over. They breathe shallow. They talk very low. They're
How's
not
that?
happy. Okay, then maybe that's you. And they're not happy, but they haven't found a vehicle to create that happiness. And I have an internal belief that if they did find that vehicle, they would do something with it. That's you. You found the vehicle. You found the people you're around. You found your tribe. And now you're able to do more shit. You're able to be more happy. You're able to give more, be more, have more. So I think a lot of those people, if they found that vehicle for them, that could get them out of that position that they were in. After I got injured playing soccer, I was in that period for a period of time where I knew I didn't want to hang out with these old people. I knew I didn't want to do the things that they did, but I also didn't know what I did want to do. I was just sad. I was just tired. I didn't have a purpose. So I relate a lot to those people. And I think it is my moral responsibility and duty as a man, again, a productive member of society, to show those people, as many of them as possible, a vehicle that they can take, because realistically, they're not going to be able to spend $60,000 like I did last year. That's not realistic. So I think to some degree, it's my responsibility to give them a vehicle that they can use to actually create that success and that happiness for themselves without adding this massive pay barrier that most people do.
And what would you even say to someone that is in a position that you were in, that I was in?
I would say the biggest issue they have, you're probably thinking of yourself as a victim. You're letting life happen to you rather than you being the one dictating your life. You see this one person over here that makes fun of you or says something bad to you, and you let it affect you because you're controlled by the people around you. I would say that the key kind of difference is rather than thinking of yourself as a victim, you have to take control. You have to have power in yourself. Somebody doesn't respect you, don't speak to them. And I know it's hard, but actually hold yourself accountable to not doing it. I wouldn't worry so much. I think a lot of those people, they focus so much on, I'm unhappy. My life is terrible. I need to find happiness. But I think finding happiness is the wrong question. I think finding productivity is the right question. I think finding that vehicle that resonates with you. And it might not be sales. You might not be interested in psychology. Maybe you love psychology, but you don't like speaking to people. Then learn about marketing. Maybe you love doing math or calculus. I don't know how the hell you'd love doing calculus, but if you do, and you don't like school, and you don't like talking to people, maybe get into operations. Like, it's different. So I think finding your purpose based on like what you actually believe in, and rather than chasing happiness, chasing productivity, I think that'll lead to a very productive life, which naturally will make you fulfilled. That's number one. Number two, like, you can literally hypnotize yourself. If all day you walk around life telling yourself, I'm sad, I'm depressed. Am I depressed? Yeah, I'm depressed. How are you going to feel?
Depressed.
You're going to feel depressed. Because you literally, if you say something enough times with enough conviction, I say this all the time, if you say something enough times with enough conviction, eventually you will start to believe it. And if you believe it, you will take actions in accordance with that belief, and you'll get results in accordance with the actions that you took. So if you're walking around life all day telling yourself, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm stressed out, I can't deal with this life anymore, that's how you're going to feel. And if you feel that way, what actions are you going to take? What actions does a depressed person who thinks their life has no value, what actions do they take? No actions. They do the bare minimum every day. They wake up. They don't do any physical exercise. They don't drink enough water. They don't even eat enough food. They have no energy. They get home. They don't even want to speak to their family. Yeah, no shit. You're going to keep feeling depressed, keep feeling sad. And then the cycle repeats itself. You take more actions like that. What results do you get? Well, all of a sudden you have no friends. Your family doesn't know anything about you. They feel detached. You obviously don't make any money because you don't have any sense of purpose, any reason why you're on the planet. And then eventually, if it gets to the very, very extremes, you might even end up like committing suicide or something. Because if you have no purpose in your life, nothing to strive for, you have nobody to support you, your own family doesn't know who you are, obviously you're going to feel like nobody cares about you. But that goes back to the point of not being a victim. If you feel like nobody cares about you, is that just because that's how you were born, or is that because of how you're acting around other people? How you're acting. So that's what I would tell somebody else is like, number one, you need to set a level of self-discipline. Number two, you need to start hypnotizing yourself in a good way instead of constantly telling yourself all these bad things about yourself every day. People will think I'm arrogant when I say stuff like, oh, I'm the hardest working person. Or I'm the best underage person at sales in the world. People think it's arrogant. Well, number one, I have numbers to back it up. Number two, I say it because I have conviction in it and I believe it. And if I believe it, the way I'm going to act is going to be very different. If I believed I was terrible at sales, would I be on this podcast right now?
No, you wouldn't.
Would I be making 65 grand a month profit at 17? No. If I went to, for example, Alberto, that kid, I went to his birthday dinner. I didn't really talk to anybody. Like I was on my phone. I was working the entire time. I was on Slack, messaging people through my DMs, everything. Like I wouldn't do that. I would be talking to everybody else and talking about whatever shit they were talking about. I don't even know. I don't care to know either. Right. But then the actions I would take would be very, very different. So that's what I would tell somebody who's in the position you and I used to be in.
That's awesome. That's because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Either way, you're going to be hypnotizing yourself.
Exactly.
You can do it to make it positive, or you could do it to put yourself in a bad position.
And if you're going to hypnotize yourself no matter what, you might as well be intentional about it. Exactly. You might as well get a good result from it. If you're going to do it anyways, doesn't take any extra effort. Yeah, maybe people call you an arrogant prick. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. And what I realized, it's like the same energy that I used to use to like, because I used to be like depressed, like I was thinking like, oh, if my parents died, I'm just going to kill myself. And then eventually I had like an epiphany. I was like, why am I doing this? Like they're the only ones that care about me. I should be the ones that provide for them. And I was like, I'm going to retire.
Exactly.
And then that's when everything changed.
That's exactly why I moved back to Houston even. On your point. I went to Europe for a couple of months. And like, I think when you first start making money at a very young age, especially because like hormones, you're a teenager or whatever, it's like, oh, I want to get away from my parents. I want to do my own thing. And so like I went to Europe for a couple of months. I was in London. I was in Italy, Switzerland. Like I was in a couple of different places. And after I was in London for a month, I literally thought, I was like, bro, like I kind of miss home. Like I kind of want to see my parents more and stuff. And I had an epiphany. It's like your parents are the only people who will genuinely always have your back and who should be willing to sacrifice themselves for you. If you have a friend do something that hurts them to help you, I think you're being a disloyal friend. But your parents, that's their responsibility in a sense. And so like when I had that epiphany, then 2 days later, I was on a flight back to Houston. I knocked on their door at 10 p.m. at night. My mom had like a freak out because she thought I was like a robber or something. I didn't tell them I was coming. And then she was like sobbing, hugging me and stuff. And it was a great reunion. And now I got this new penthouse in Houston. So now I have a place where I can be around them. I can spend every week with them. So like, yeah, I think that's a massive part of it. I think your parents.
How do they feel now, seeing what you've become?
That's an interesting question. I think they still bug me about going back to high school.
Really?
That's number one. They want me to get my GED or whatever. I'm like, what am I going to do with the GED? That's number one. Number two, I know they're very happy for me and very proud of me, which is a great thing. I think their way of expressing that is very differently. I think when I was a little bit younger, like before I left home, because I was already making pretty good money, like when I left, if I showed them my first 30K a month, they were kind of like, oh, that's cool. If I got 100 on a math test, they were like, whoa, like this is crazy. So like, I think their balance is a little bit different because again, they're university professors. But I know it comes from love. I know they care about me. I think they were fantastic parents. I think I learned a lot around my beliefs and who I am as a person from my dad. I think that's how they feel. I think whenever I do something nice and they keep me very grounded in a sense. If I donate $1,000, $2,000 to charity, that makes them the happiest person in the world. If I make $100,000 revenue in a month, they don't really give a shit. I think it makes me happy, if anything, being able to provide for them. Like if we go to a dinner, I'm always going to pay for it. Like I think stuff like that makes them happy. And I think it makes them happy not because I paid for the dinner, but because it showed them that I've grown up and I'm my own man in a sense. And I think that's the dream of every parent.
And what is, because like me personally, right? Like I'm always thinking about the person that I want to become, the person that's able to achieve all my goals.
Yeah. Do
you have something similar with yourself? Like this version of yourself that you're working to become?
I do. It's interesting because I have like long-term visions. I don't really have short-term goals. And I don't even have long-term goals. I think there's a difference between a goal and a vision. And I think I've set so many goals in the past and I never achieved them. I always achieved something a little bit different, but that was equally good, if not greater. Like I never thought I'd be in this position this fast. I thought this would be me in like 10 years or 20 years. Right. So like, I think I never set very specific goals of like, okay, this is what I'm going to be right here. It was more of like a vision of like, I want to have that. Like I know when I'm 21, I want to have a very loving wife who can support
Really?
me, who I can build a kingdom with. Yeah, people would think like, oh, that's too young or whatever. I don't know. I think I can figure it out. We'll see. I want to have a very loving wife. I want to have a nonprofit company that's like self-sustaining. Like it's a company, all the profit goes to a foundation, charity, etc. So self-sustaining rather than begging other people for money. I want to be an 8-figure entrepreneur before I'm 21. Do I know the company it's going to happen with? No. I think it's going to be this company. Do I know if it's going to be B2C? Do I know if it's going to be done for you? Do I know if it's going to be done with you? Do I know if it's going to be consulting? I have no idea. Who knows? I'd like to think I have an idea, but like in reality, I don't. So I think there's a mix of all of it. I definitely have a vision. I don't know if I specifically have a specific goal, if you know what I mean.
Hmm. Okay. And one thing earlier, like you were touching on it a little bit, I accidentally cut you off, asked a different question because I got, but I guess like what was like the actual specific moment or epiphany that you had that even like triggered the change for you from like who you were like normie to becoming this entrepreneur?
I think it was a realization that people who consider themselves friends in high school when you're young, the majority of them aren't real friends. It's just shared obsessions. So they'll go, this is an example I always give. Like this kid will be like, oh, I smoke weed. And he's like, oh, I smoke weed too. Let's smoke weed together. Now everybody's smoking weed together, right? You have, I don't know, there's some person, they like playing this sport and they like a certain restaurant. Oh, I play this sport too. I like this restaurant. Let's go together. Now you're together. I think the majority of it is shared obsessions and not allies. That's what Tim Grover calls them. And I took this concept away from them. He was Kobe Bryant's and Michael Jordan's coach, both of them, and Dwayne Wade. And he has this concept called an ally. And an ally is somebody who makes each other better, even if they don't necessarily have things in common. And it's about being real and truthful with people, not saying what they want. That kid, Alberto, I have literally nothing in common with him. And I mean like absolutely nothing. He's in theater. He's very, very good at it. He's going to university for it. He has a girlfriend that they have a great relationship. He has not a very tight circle, like a lot of wider friends, I guess you could call it. Like it's not a very tight circle. He's more like kind of widespread in a sense. He still lives with his parents, obviously. Like he's supported by them. Like we literally have zero in common, but we make each other better. Like I'll try and push him like, oh, go to this audition, do this, do that. He'll push me. You can do this. You can do more. Like, so I think that's an ally versus a friendship. And I think that's key because when I realized that there's all these shared obsessions that people have that puts them together, but they're not truly friends. The point that I kind of realized that is there was a party. This is a great story. There was a party one day and I was like blackout drunk, nothing. I was with a couple of friends. I remember 2 or 3 of them. I don't remember the rest of them. And I cracked open a pen, and I took a sewing needle and I dipped it inside and I gave myself a tattoo on my leg. It's called a stick and poke.
Is it still there?
I have it to this day. Yeah. It's not faded a single bit. I wish it did, but it didn't because I went way too deep. And so it's still there. It's completely crooked. It was 240, which is the area code that I was born. And the 2 is like sideways and the 4 is like half of it's in grain and then the 0 is fine. So like, it looks completely stupid. It's a good memory though. And after that day, I realized like everybody else was like kind of chanting me in a sense. It was like, oh yeah, do this. Like, this is great. Do this, blah, blah. But then I looked back and I was like, how does this help me in any way? Like, how is this good whatsoever? Besides me just chasing more of those shared obsessions of crazy people doing crazy, stupid shit. It doesn't in any way. And so once I had that realization, that's kind of what like pivoted me in a sense into kind of getting more serious with soccer. Right. And like really trying to get the work ethic and everything else in. I think that was a bit of a pivot for me. And then eventually getting into business. I think that was the ultimate last realization. And then I think there was a combination of a lot of like littler things. Like there's people I used to be very, very good friends with. Again, friends, shared obsessions from like freshman year, sophomore year, that like junior year, they thought they were like too cool. And then they kind of pulled away or like went with other people, whatever it was. And And I think losing a lot of those people, it taught me a lot of lessons because I didn't lose them because, oh, he doesn't help me anymore. I didn't lose them because, oh, he doesn't make me a better person. I didn't lose them because like, oh, he's not fun to hang out with. I lost them because they found people who were more popular, for example. It was like, okay, well, that's fucking stupid. And so I think a lot of those combined little things with like that last kind of final push, I think gave me that drive to actually take my life more seriously and like try and do something with it. I think that was a bit of the wake up call for me.
And throughout like the entire journey, man, like going from like 16 years old in high school, whatever, to where you are right now, what do you feel was the lowest point?
My lowest point. See, this is an interesting question because through the journey, I never viewed it as a low point. Like I always thought, and this is something I think I did well that people can take away from this. In every moment, I always thought like, this is where I'm supposed to be. So again, it was that concept of like, I have feelings, but I also have productivity. Which one's more important? The productivity. So like, even in a moment where I felt terrible, it was never like oh, I'm screwed. Or like, I don't know if I should do this. It was always like, this is where I'm exactly supposed to be. Like I'm doing the right thing and I know I am. So even though it's hard, I'm just going to go through it. So I never viewed it as a low point. Looking back though, I can kind of say what would have been the lowest point in terms of like, if I thought in a different way, I guess you could say. There was a point in time at that Inc. 5000 company. I don't want to say the name too much for legal purposes. But that Inc. 5000 company where I was the number one guy this was after John left, actually, I was collecting more, him and a couple other people left. I was collecting more than the rest of the team combined because I told myself, I was like, okay, going into January, it was like these people left. I need to make up for all their numbers and my numbers. And that month, I like doubled the KPI. Next month, I collected more than the rest of my team combined, like all put together in cash collection, while managing the team and training them and everything else. And before going into that period, I went from already a top producer to like the top producer. And I think the mental shift between there was honestly one of the hardest points because I went from working 12, 14 hours a day to working 16 to 18 hours a day and still working out, not getting enough sleep, running off of supplements and caffeine, like literally. I was probably 600 to 800 milligrams of caffeine a day. Plus there's
Heart attack speed run, bro.
plug these little things. This is like natural Adderall. That's what I call it. This shit locks you in. And I would up my dosage like constantly, whatever. That was a hard point for me because it went from like, I can at least speak to the people in the company and have some degree of like allies in a sense to like, no, I have to be completely alone. Like I don't have a choice. I am going to be lonely. I will be locked into this office. This office is my home. I'm sleeping on a sleeping bag. I am going to wake up at 4 a.m., do a cold plunge, sprint to the office as fast as I can possibly do, and be on calls until 8, 9 p.m. when I go hit a workout, get dinner, and go to sleep and do it all over again. That was a hard like mental point for me of like breaking through that. Once you get in the habit of it, this is a weird concept. Not a lot of people will understand unless you've been there. You almost feel like numb in a sense. Like you don't feel emotion. Like I'd get to the end of the day, and part of it was like after speaking with 35 people who all have different backgrounds, who all do different things, who some of them are depressed, some of them are egotistical and arrogant as hell, and they don't have any numbers to back it up. Like it was just so emotionally like draining and taxing that at the end of the day, like you don't have emotional capacity to feel anything. Like you see something funny, you don't laugh. Feel sad, you don't feel sad. Like nothing. There's just nothing there.
Drained.
And people will think that's the most depressing thing possible. It's a dopamine hit in a sense because you feel unstoppable. You feel like you cannot lose. It's like this dark place, this dark energy that just pushes you forward. And it's like, if I don't feel emotion and I can't feel bad and I can't feel sad and I can't feel happy, I can't be defeated. It's
Do
the
you feel like
weirdest concept.
do you feel like you run off negative or positive energy?
Negative, 1,000%. I think everybody, they don't want to tell this to themselves. I think everybody runs off negative energy. And then eventually they'll convert it to the positive. I think the most successful people will always run off of negative in the long term. Look at Michael Jordan, for example. Great example. If you look at his NBA Hall of Fame speech, or you look at him like in documentaries, like The Last Dance. I've watched that like 4 or 5 times. Yeah, chip on your shoulder, but he would create the chip. He has in his NBA Hall of Fame video, the entire time is him talking about the littlest moments where somebody pissed him off. Somebody said something to him and he remembered it. Even moments that he made up. There's this story in The Last Dance. There was a game where it became like a massive thing on social media and publicity and all that and with the media. And it was like a guy apparently in a game had told Michael Jordan like, oh, nice game, like sarcastically to piss him off. And Michael Jordan ran from that for the rest of the entire series, destroyed this guy, put him on a hole. He ended up getting benched for the rest of the games because of how bad he beat him. And it turns out in The Last Dance, in the documentary, a couple years later, they interview him. He's like, the guy never even told me that. He made it up in his own head to create the own motivation, the own energy to push forward. And I think everybody runs off that to some degree. When you're in Navy SEAL training, take David Goggins, you're in Navy SEAL training and all of your bones are broken and you feel like shit and you're dehydrated and you can't eat and you feel terrible. Is it going to be like, oh, I'm going to have this fantastic life and it's going to be a fairy tale? No, it's pain. That's the language. It's pain. It's hard shit. It hurts. That's what makes you a better man. Going back to what I was saying in my childhood, if you grow up constantly in this positive energy of, oh, my life is so amazing and I can play sports, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you're going to grow up to be a pussy. That's the reality. If you don't create hard shit for yourself and you don't go through the pain, you will not build yourself mentally or in any facet of life. If you don't get rejected by 50 women, you're not going to overcome the rejection. You're going to be too scared to ask out another girl. If you don't go through sales or business and go through all the hard things, you will not have the mental strength, the mental toughness. If you give somebody who's never been in business $1 million and you tell him to run a business, he will lose it because he cannot go through the mental aspects to be able to survive. I have most people in society can't even go through one entire day of doing something they like. Somebody's in soccer, somebody's in basketball, whatever it is, somebody's a singer. They can't even go through 18 hours, much less 24 hours straight of doing that one thing they like. If you can go through things you don't like for 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, months on end, you are unstoppable. You will destroy that person in every aspect, every single time. You know that because even you, Paul, you go through stuff that most people don't go through. You work harder, you commit, you take risks that other people just don't. So you will naturally outperform them and succeed. And you do. And that's why. So I think that's the core concept of it all is you need to be able to build that mental strength, that mental toughness for yourself. And I think a lot of that comes down to childhood, but a lot of it comes down to building it for yourself. Again, that goes back to why I ran away from home. Because I needed to build myself into a strong enough man to go through whatever I would have to go through to be successful, no matter the cost. So going back to the dark energy, I think that's where it comes from. Pain is the language of success. And if you're not willing to go through pain and pain doesn't feed you, if you don't chase pain and you don't want more pain, I don't think you can be the maximum level of success that you want to have, not just monetarily, but in any facet of life. So I think you fundamentally have to chase pain. I think even people who say they're driven off of this positive, dandelion energy, I think the reason they got to the success to where people would listen to that message was through pain, through the negative. So I think spreading that to young people of oh, you have to have this positive energy and everything, I think it's bullshit. I think it hurts them because they're expecting this fairy tale and then they go into it and they see the truth, which is that it's going to hurt and it's going to be tough. It's going to be bad. And the contrast of the expectation versus the reality is so different that they end up quitting. So yeah, I'm run completely off of dark energy. And I think any successful person is as well and was to get to the point where they are now. Maybe they change that and maybe they end up being driven by the positive energy. And then I don't think they reach their full potential.
You get soft.
Exactly.
How do you feel like business changed you as a person?
It made me more of a man. I think before, if somebody said something that I didn't find funny or somebody said something bad about me, making fun of me or whatever, I would laugh and go along with it and just be a little bitch. I think now I'm more confident in myself and my own ability to where if somebody makes fun of me or says something stupid, get the fuck out. Why am I talking to you? You know what I mean? So I think it made me more of a man. It made me have more respect for myself. I think it made me a lot more capable in every aspect of life. It made me feel not only did it make me a man in the confidence aspect, it made me feel like more of a man because I can actually take care of my family, like do stuff I want to do. I think it made me more mature. It made me grow up a lot more. I think it set me up extremely well for life. Most kids my age don't have my communication capabilities. They don't have any sense of risk tolerance. I think it's massive. They don't have the mental strength. I think if I were to lose everything I had today and we went into like a World War III or something, I think I would outsurvive and outlast almost anybody else of my age because I have more mental strength. I can go through more stuff without breaking. I have more intelligence, more pattern recognition. I've studied not just business and sales and psychology, but I've studied history. So I think that's what being a man is. I think it's being able to provide, being able to have mental strength, being able to survive. And I think the man who can do that at the highest capability is the most successful person. So I think that's the biggest facet that has grown me is masculinity, I would say.
I would agree, man. So as for the hardest question, man, it's not going to be the last one.
Okay.
But what was the most retarded sales call you've ever had?
I have a lot of great stories.
Tell them.
There's one fun one. So I had a kid on a call. Okay, this is a really, really funny one. So this goes back to what I was saying earlier of like, if you're constantly walking around every day being like, oh, I'm sad, you're going to feel sad. You're going to act sad. I had a sales call where the guy came on, and he was like a high school kid. And I could tell as soon as he joined the call, I was like, okay, this guy's a win. Like we need to figure some shit out. And so he was constantly down. He was talking like he was like from the hood or something. He was like, just not looking and acting like a successful person.
Mhm.
And so within 10 minutes, I made him get down and do like 40 or 50 push-ups with me.
The fuck?
We were like jumping jacks and everything. And it's recorded on Loom as well. So this is hilarious. When we got into objection handling, it was the funniest thing because I could see the fear creeping up on him and stuff. So I did a meditation with him. Do you know Tony Robbins' priming thing or no?
No, I don't.
Okay, so it's like something where you do like this and you breathe in like really deeply and stuff. And it's like a whole like mesmerizing, almost like chant. And he did the entire thing with me for like 10 minutes. And then we sat down, we did a meditation. And then he ended up walking into his parents' room. I don't know if they were asleep or like what was going on because he had to mute and like be very, very quiet. And he took their card and ended up paying. And now he makes $10,000 a month. So like ended up being the best thing.
Go.
But that was a hilarious call because he was like tiptoeing into the room, like grabbing like a credit card, and then he ended up paying. And now he's doing great, obviously. That was a funny one. There's also one where this kid had a shit ton of fear. Like he was really, really scared. And so I asked him for a referral kind of as a joke. And he got one of his buddies onto the call with him. And then at the same time, and they had different companies, like different agencies. And then I like pinned them against each other. And so in objection, it was like one guy was like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I think I'll do it. Like I'll do it with the payment plan. And I was like, look at this other guy. He's being a little fucking bitch. Talk to him. And then he started like shit talking him until the other guy was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And then one of them, I convinced one to do a piff, and then he convinced the other guy to do the piff, and then they both ended up piffing, and it was a double sale and like a 45-minute call. That was a funny one. There's a lot of funny stories I have.
Is that going to be in the course? Like how to do the meditation with
I might have to.
That's going to be the new objection handling method.
Scenario. It's a very specific skill set. But yeah, I guess it might have to be in the course then. I might even put the recording in there. That'd be
okay. I'll start using that one. You'll just see like a recording of me. Like 25K per month closer, how to handle fear.
Yeah, it's pretty.
What's the dumbest thing?
Camera off the entire time. When he was tiptoeing, he had his camera off the entire time, so I could hear him breathing in and out really, really hard through the.
That's funny, bro. What's the dumbest thing you've ever spent money on?
I don't think I spent money on anything dumb because I think everything I spent money on taught me a very, very good lesson. It's like this is the first Rolex I ever bought. Right? It's like my most emotionally attached one, if you will. And a lot of people would view that and be like, oh, that was stupid. And I can't say it's stupid because it taught me so many lessons. The reason I don't put that much emphasis and that much care on making more money is because I bought this Rolex and I got this penthouse and I felt good for 12 hours maybe, and then it just felt like anything else. So I don't think I've ever spent money on anything stupid because I think anything I spent money on taught me a very, very good lesson. Like I've gotten even scammed in coaching programs and stuff where I got no results. But I can't say that was a waste of money because If I didn't spend that money, I wouldn't have committed as much to myself. I wouldn't have learned the key lessons, which a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, I got scammed once. I'm never going to invest again. That's a stupid ass mindset. I spent 60 grand, 40 of it, I didn't get a return. The 20 grand got me 100 extra return. So like, if I'd gone through the 40, wasted it, never done the 20, I wouldn't be here today. So even being like, oh, I spent money on this scam coaching program, but it taught me a very, very good lesson. So I can't say it was a waste. So yeah, I don't think I've ever wasted money on anything really. I think everything taught me a really good lesson, which made me who I am today.
Yeah, and when it comes to sales, dude, because obviously you're good. What do you feel is the biggest differentiator between like mediocre closers and the actual best of the best?
I think work ethic plays a massive part into it. I think work ethic is one of the most determining factors. I think having great mentors is another massive determining factor. I think, what else? I would say efficiency. Efficiency is massive. So I'll go through all of them, starting with the work ethic, for example.
Mm-hmm.
John Mao, even like when he first started getting mentored by Yash, etc. I knew John, like we lived together for like 3 days, like an event or something. Back when he had like $50 in his bank account. So I knew him from the beginning. And we had a lot of mutuals back then and stuff. And when he started getting mentored by Yash, which was actually at that event, and he ended up joining the company, and then Yash was coaching him and everything. He didn't have that great of a work ethic. Like he didn't want to work as hard, etc. Like it was always like, oh, like I'm tired of calling this list, blah, blah, whatever. Now he has a great work ethic.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a completely different person. It's night and day. And I think it's the same with any like really successful person in a sense. So I think developing that made him extremely more successful. And anybody in life, I think it does the exact same thing. So I think work ethic is a massive factor. I think having the right mentors is incredibly important. For example, getting coached or mentored by Jeremy Minor, like one-on-one, giving me feedback and stuff, didn't help me.
Really?
My conversion rate actually went down when I got coached and mentored by him, because he's so good at sales and very, very intelligent to where he couldn't really simplify it into concepts very, very well. And so like, getting coached by him one-on-one, my conversion rates literally went down, and I have the data like to back that. When I got mentored by Yash, straight up, like a rocket ship. So I think having the right mentors plays a massive part. And I think the right mentor isn't just somebody who's made a lot of money or been very successful or is where you want to be. I think learning styles and like who they are as a person, I think that matches a lot. For me, I needed some help with my skill set. But honestly, skill set wise, I was already very, very good. Before I went to Yash, like any offer I'd ever been on, I had 3x'd everybody else's conversion rates. So it wasn't really a skill set thing. For me, he taught me a lot more around mindset, which helped a lot. I needed somebody by my side at the beginning to be like, dude, I get it. You're tired. Push the fuck on. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. Like I needed that guy at the beginning, because then after I built it for myself, I could just be my own version of me. So I think right mentors is key. It's like almost everything. And the third one was, what was the third one that I said?
I got short-term memory, man.
I think it was.
I really don't think you said a third one.
No, I said a third one. It was good and it was key, but I forget what it was. Well, I'll make one up now. I think prioritizing mental toughness over skill set or like making a little bit more cash, I think is massive. I think mental toughness is at the foundation of all success, because if you can work really, really hard for long periods of times and not get tired, you will succeed. If you can do something enough times and get rejected over and over and over again, whether it's working hard in a business, whether it's a proposal, whether it's anything at all, whether it's dating, if you can do something enough times, get rejected and keep going, fundamentally, I think that's a characteristic that's required for success. I'll give you an example. I used to wake up at 4 a.m. every morning, and I would time myself. I would have to get in the cold plunge within 90 seconds of waking up. So like this, on purpose. Everybody thought I was crazy. I would let people live with me, like from the company, whenever they came to visit the office. And they always thought I was like batshit crazy. Like I was nuts.
Taking their souls.
The reason I did that wasn't because getting in the cold plunge for 5 or 10 minutes when it was 40 degrees Fahrenheit outside at 4 a.m., it wasn't because that directly made me more money, but it made me more mentally strong. Example, if you have one guy who all day is doing whatever he feels like doing, he feels like eating a certain food that's bad for him, he eats it. He doesn't feel like working out. He doesn't work out. He doesn't feel like writing a script. He doesn't write a script. He doesn't feel like doing 500 outreaches a day. He doesn't do 500 outreaches a day. That guy,
He's fucked.
whenever you get to a point where it's like, he feels like quitting, he feels tired in his business, he feels like shit, is he going to be the guy who's like, oh, one more day, I'm going to push through, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make it happen? No, he's going to fail, like most people. If you have another guy who's always based on logic, on productivity, like I said earlier, mental strength, he's always building his mental toughness. He's waking up at 4 a.m. every day, even though he doesn't want to, 7 days a week. He's not talking to anybody for months on end, being extremely lonely, but pushing through it. He is writing a script every day when he knows he has to. He's prioritizing speaking with his family every single week, even though he doesn't have time, but he makes the time. He's working out, even on the days when he doesn't feel like working out. He's extremely sore and he doesn't feel like it, but he does it anyways. That guy, whenever the business is going bad or sales is going bad or he's on a dry streak and it's like tired and emotionally upset or whatever it is, and he comes to that point where it's like, one more day. Gotta go one more day. And the next day, it's hard again. One more day. Is he going to push through? Hell yeah, he is. Not because he's some genius, but because he built mental strength. So I think discipline and mental strength, honestly, above the other two that I said, I think is honestly the most important. Because if you have the mental strength, you'll get the right mentor, you'll learn the right skill sets and everything else. Because you'll keep reaching out to mentors, you'll keep going to networking events and everything else. Even if you fail, you'll do it again. You don't learn a skill set, you have a dry streak, you'll keep going. So I think mental strength, honestly, is priority over all of those things. And I think building that by intentionally doing hard things that don't directly make you money is how you become great and you do big stuff. I think that's the key factor, would be mental strength.
And one thing as well, like the audience is probably wondering this, but like, how did you get in contact with your mentors and find those guys?
It was by putting myself out there enough times. It goes back to the same principle, like so much volume that success becomes unreasonable. I sold on 2 different offers after I got out of my first business. I sold on 2 different offers for my buddies. I had 3x everybody's conversion rate. I was working harder. I was waking up at 4 a.m. every day. And since I was 3xing everybody's conversion rates on the offer before that Inc. 5000 company, since I was 3xing everybody's conversion rates, within 2 weeks, I was training the entire sales team. I was still going to school at that point. So I'd wake up at 4 a.m. I'd get ready by like 4:30. I'd train the team between 4:30 and 5:45. And then my friend would pick me up to go to school at 6:15 a.m. I was doing that at school, writing my script, learning the entire time, watching trainings, YouTube videos. When I got home, sales calls until 11 p.m., go to bed, get 5 hours of sleep, do it all over again. So I think so much volume to where success became unreasonable. And I was showing that I didn't just say I wanted to be successful, but I was doing what the successful person did. A true mentor, I think the best mentors in the world aren't the people who will be like, oh, I'm going to coach you and I'm going to mentor you for this price. I don't think those are the best people. I think the best mentors are the people who don't even want to mentor you in the first place. Because if you can convince them to mentor you and coach you, they will be bought into your success. They will only mentor you if they're actually bought into your success and they love you as a person. Yash, he doesn't do public mentoring. He doesn't want to. He never did in the past. But when I went to an event at 7th level, when I went to one of their events, when he was a sales rep for them, he sold me the ticket. I met him at the event. He saw how committed I was. He saw my schedule. He saw that I'd skipped 2 days of school to go to that event and fly to Arizona and go there. He saw that. He saw my commitment. So he was bought into my success as a person. And that's when he recruited me into that company. And then I ended up doing everything I did. So I think that's kind of the core, is like, take take very reasonable amounts of action that to other people seem unreasonable until you succeed. And that's how you get people bought into your success. That's my key.
Yeah. If you never stop, you can't fail. So we talk a lot about your strengths and everything. I guess, what's a weakness that you're still working through?
A weakness I'm still working through. There's things that I'm learning and I'm having to get better at. I don't really consider them a weakness. Like, for example, okay, you could come to me and be like, Andres, you're not good at your time management. Yeah, but I have an assistant in London who does it all for me. Like, why do I care? right? So I think there's weaknesses, but I don't think they're particularly relevant because those weaknesses aren't things that I do. Like, yeah, you could say I'm bad at copywriting. Am I a copywriter? No. I don't think anything that I do on a day-to-day basis, I have a weakness in, and that's on purpose because I create my life around that. I know I'm good at communication, so I can do podcasts, I can record content. I know I'm very, very good at sales, so I can take sales calls, I can build sales processes for different companies in the consulting that I'm doing with Yosh now. I know I'm very good at training people. So like on those reps, on those different offers that we manage, that we consult for, that we'll go in and sell to ourselves and everything else. When we recruit, manage, and train a team afterwards, I can train them very effectively. I can't say I have a weakness in any of those things because I don't. I can say I have a weakness in time management. I can say I have a weakness in spending a lot of time with people, meaning I don't spend a lot of time with those people. But again, that's on purpose. I could say I don't know how to set up the lighting for this podcast, but are any of those things really weaknesses? I wouldn't consider it. So I don't think I particularly have a weakness, and that might be ego or arrogance, but it might also just be hypnotizing myself. Like I said earlier, if I don't believe I have a weakness, I will not have a weakness. There's things I want to get better at, sure, but if I believe fundamentally and I go around life telling myself, oh, I have a weakness here, I'm not good at this, I'm terrible at this, I'm horrible at this, then when I have to go do the thing, I'm going to be terrible at it because that's what I've been convincing myself for the past 12 months. So that would be my answer. And I think anybody who says they have a weakness, I think if logically and numbers wise, you do have a weakness, then I think it's okay to admit that because it allows you to work on it. But I think if you've worked on something long enough to where you're genuinely not weak at it, I think it makes you a weaker person and it makes you more unsuccessful to tell yourself that it is a weakness in the first place.
I like that.
Does that make sense?
I didn't expect you to give me that answer. No, it's good.
That's what I would say.
Where do you think, what's next for you, man? 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line?
So I have that vision. So like before I'm 21, I want to be an 8-figure entrepreneur. I want to start that nonprofit that's like self-sustaining that can donate to multiple charities and foundations and stuff like that. I actually want to be able to, I hope my dad's not watching this. I want to be able to fund my dad. He has it's called the Brain Center. So like my dad actually does a lot of cool shit. He doesn't get paid a lot for it because he works at a university, obviously. But like he spoke in front of the UN Council. Like he's done a lot of cool stuff, and he works with like stroke patients and disabilitated people, like helping them regain movement and like functionality. So it's super, super cool. I want to be able to fund his foundation, his group. I want to do that. Again, I want to be married before I'm 21, which we'll see how that works out. Hopefully I don't end up in a divorce a year later. So yeah, I have a vision of like what I want to do. It's hard to say where I see myself in 5 years because again, like having very specific goals, I think that's kind of difficult to do because it usually doesn't work out the way you want it to work out. But I definitely have a vision, and I think that's my vision.
Do you have anything you want to say to the audience?
I think the only thing I could really say is like, and this is a principle I've really lived by and I've thought about a lot. If you condition yourself to society, you will end up like society. And if you look at the progression of society, it's moved from a God-based society, people working hard, traditional gender roles, kids being raised a lot better, divorce rates a lot lower, to the opposite of everything I just said. So if you do what everybody else in society does in the norm, you will be part of that trend, that declining trend of society. So I think naturally you have to follow people like Paul who have gone from a dark place and somewhere that's not great to somewhere that's beautiful and great. Because if this is the natural downwards trend and you notice all the people who have this other trend end up going like this, then maybe don't follow this trend. Like maybe just don't follow it. Like it's pretty obvious. But most people don't think that way. Most people will watch this podcast and rather than doing what you or I do and becoming the successful version of themselves, they will end up going to high school tomorrow, going to college tomorrow, seeing all these kids going to parties and doing all this stupid stuff. They will continue to follow an educational system that is fundamentally flawed, which we can go into in a second if you want to. They will continue to do what the norm is rather than just modeling the success of people before them. So that's the biggest thing I could say is like, even, again, I'm not a course seller, no course, no coach, nothing. Even if you look at like a course seller and they went from being broke or homeless to making $100,000 a month, rather than looking at their profile and being like, oh, you sell courses, you're a terrible human being. Maybe be like, damn, this guy went from homeless to making $100,000 a month. Maybe I should see what he did. His marketing skills, his sales skills. Maybe you don't launch a course. Please don't launch a course. We have too many fucking courses. And I'm going to beat you anyway, so there's no real point. But the second thing you can do is be like, he's great at marketing. He's great at sales. He's great at psychology. What can I learn from all this and implement it into something that I love? Maybe you want to be a doctor. Maybe instead of becoming a doctor working for somebody else, limited on your hours and capabilities, maybe you run your own office and you use the marketing and sales skills that you learned from that guy selling a course on how to start Amazon FBA, and you actually end up running a successful practice. Like, I think modeling the people who become successful rather than the downwards trend, I think is always going to be the way to succeed in society.
Yeah. I use it during my objection handling as well. Because if you do what 99% of people do, then what kind of results are you going to get? So like the 1% version of you, like, you know.
Exactly right.
Because you mentioned like society's on a downward trajectory. Do you feel like that's on purpose?
I think there's a direct correlation of like the further away we've gone from the origin of religion, the further down the world has gone. If you think about like 0 BC or whatever, like right when like I believe in Christ, right? I'm Christian, Catholics, like right when Jesus was alive, for example, like that's the closest society was to religion. And when society was that close to religion, that's when you had men working very, very hard. I'm not saying there wasn't bad things. I agree that society has developed in other ways that are positive. I think the downwards trajectory as a whole has been pretty dominant though. So like, I think you could say on purpose in a sense. And yeah, it's definitely on purpose because some people have won it. Like a lot of people profit or get something for themselves out of the downwards trajectory, I would say, as a whole. But I think naturally, if you look at the progression over time, the further away we've gone from religion, no matter the religion, the less morals and principles matter. And the less morals and principles matter, the more screwed up stuff there is in society. Whether it's OnlyFans, whether it's people having higher body counts than ever before, whether it's men becoming more lazy, whether it's people becoming more disrespectful, which those are all trends in society. They're widely known. Everybody knows it. So on purpose or not, I think, I look for patterns. That's my natural, what I do, my natural way of recognizing society in different scopes of skills, if you will. And I think that's the pattern that I've recognized. So I think it's worth, whether that God is an actual religion for you, or it's even just goodness as a person or the universe, I think it could be that as well. And I think even if you believe in that, that'll lead you to not do all these bad things. I think if you believe in the universe and in what you put out to the world is what you get back, I don't think you would become lazy. I don't think you would disrespect people because you already know what's coming back to you. So I think believing in something, whether it's a God, whether it's a religion, whether it's the universe, or just being a good human being, I think there's principles and morals, and the further we go away from that, the worse society becomes.
There you go. And for the audience, they're probably mostly coming from you anyway, because I got like 10 subscribers. But where can people follow you, work with you, learn from you, etc.?
Yeah, my Instagram, just look at my name, Andres Contreras. I'll pop up. You can do the same on YouTube. I'm actually going to be posting a lot more stuff soon. And that group that I mentioned is launching in a week and a half. And that'll have, again, all the courses, the coaching, everything you need complete for free. So if you want to get that kind of guidance, I'm here to help you. So hopefully you want to help yourself.
Alrighty. Thanks for hopping on, bro.
100%, bro.